So this work study is really not going to be so much about us, but more about kind of the FOC and the special administrator. So I won't take their time away from them, and I'll go ahead and kick it over to TJ.
All right, thank you. So thank you, Marysville School Board and community. Again, my name is TJ Kelly. I'm the Chief Financial Officer with OSPI here under the direction of Superintendent Chris Rakedahl. Tonight we're going to walk through enhanced financial oversight, what it means for Marysville, and I have the pleasure of introducing Dr. Art Jarvis as the Special Administrator to work through some of the recent challenges with Marysville in adherence with the binding conditions letters that we have issued first in August of 23 and then have updated periodically over the last calendar year. So we'll get right to it. So this graphic is available on one of OSPI's web pages. We have a new web page now specifically dedicated to the state's role with financially challenged school districts. And you can see on the left here of the graphic, we have sorry, it's been a long day. I'll slow down. On the left side of the graphic, we have financial solvency, and that is where no OSPI oversight is required. So those are your districts that are balancing their budgets, monitoring their own expenditures, doing monthly financial reporting to their boards, all of the traditional financial business of school districts. And then as we progress from right to left, or from left to right on that top bar there, we have financial monitoring, binding conditions, financial insolvency, financial oversight, enhanced financial oversight, and then school district dissolution. And then you can see in the bottom in the lighter green, as the graphic moves from left to right, OSPI becomes more involved with consulting with the district as they make financial decisions in an attempt to balance their budget and move themselves back into a position of financial solvency. Right now, one of the reasons we're here this evening in front of you is because Marysville School District has moved to enhanced financial oversight. And what does that mean? Well, it means that certain actions are required. And those actions are outlined here as sub-bullets of the second bullet on this slide. So in order for a district to be an enhanced financial oversight, the school district must be on binding conditions. And as stated earlier, Marysville was originally placed on binding conditions in August of 2023. The Financial Oversight Committee must be convened. And the Financial Oversight Committee is a group of individuals from the local ESD 189, from OSPI, and then one member from an educational service district outside of this region that reviews, monitors, and oversees financial information and transactions that are occurring at the school district level. The Financial Oversight Committee can place restrictions on the district to monitor spending and assist the district in meeting its binding conditions. So the overarching goal of all of this additional process is to ensure that the district meets the overarching requirements in the binding conditions letter. So over the course of time, the district can move back into financial sustainability and be released from binding conditions. And then finally, part of the reason why we're here this evening is because enhanced financial oversight requires the state to appoint a special administrator to work with employees of the district and the local constituents to identify barriers and solutions for the district. And in this case, we were very fortunate to have Dr. Art Jarvis, I would say, volunteer his services for this critical role in the process as we continue to work with Marysville School District. So before we touch on this slide, I want to be clear on a few things. Dr. Jarvis is an employee of OSPI. He reports directly to me through me to the executive leadership team at OSPI. OSPI is 100% responsible for his salary, benefits, travel, IT costs. The only thing that is required of the district is providing an office space for him, and then whatever the employee time is for him to have critical discussions to figure out where processes can and need to improve so we can move the district towards a more financial viable situation. So wanted to be very clear on that Marysville School District is not paying for salary, travel, or technical expenses related to Dr. Jarvis's employment. So in the letters that we have posted online, in the most recent letter that placed Marysville on enhanced financial oversight, there were several restrictions that were laid out. I'm not going to read them all. They're available. I don't have them committed to memory either. But for example, there was a freeze on discretionary building budgets. There was also a hiring freeze. There were about 10 or 12 different restrictions put in place. So those restrictions are intended to ensure the district spend within their current budget, encourage the consideration of alternative options for fulfilling a need, provide the Financial Oversight Committee an opportunity for continuous evaluation of the budget, and result in long-term financial health of the district. What they're not intended to do is result in the district being in violation of state or federal law, prevent the day-to-day delivery of curriculum or instructional opportunities for students, or restrict access to any resource or material that is either already purchased or as part of the overall budget of the district. So if there is a position that needs to be hired and the district provides documentation that that position is part of the overall budget that was approved by the district back in August, then that is a much easier decision for the Financial Oversight Committee to approve, rather than somebody who was not included in those overall budget assumptions and is needed now for a variety of acceptable reasons. Obviously, budgets are plans. Then that is something that we would need to take into consideration a little bit more closely, because as we've all done with our household budgets before, something happens, you have to pay for something you didn't anticipate, which sometimes means there was something you were planning to do that you can't do anymore. So that's what we're trying to get to. In some conversations we've had with various groups earlier in the day, what we've learned is we definitely need to work with your HR and fiscal team and through Dr. Jarvis on creating a more efficient way to communicate who the people are that you're trying to hire, not by individual obviously, but by position, and have us be able to validate whether they're part of the overarching budget, so we can be a little bit more efficient in how we issue those approvals. But again, as the state agency that's responsible for the oversight and education of students, we would not put restrictions in place that force the district to be in violation of law, and we would want to have a conversation about a specific transaction if doing so would put Marysville in a compromising position. Dr. Jarvis, you want to introduce yourself and walk through either this slide or your background or whatever you feel discussing at this point, and then we'll work through the rest of the slide deck.
Thank you, TJ. I think to try to help explain what a special administrator is, I want to share with you a few of my thoughts, but because I do work for OSPI and have not been interviewed by the district, I'm going to spend a minute or two just introducing who I am so that you can at least answer that or see if it agrees with what you've looked up online and tried to figure out. I have been a school superintendent for 35 years in the state of Washington. I've retired repeatedly, And I've been told by any number of people, including virtually all of my family, they will never again attend a retirement. Somehow or other, the phone rings and there is a discussion about some need and why somebody thinks I can help. And I guess I lead off on that because in trying to answer for you, why am I here? Part of the motivation is that I love the school business, and that may sound corny, but I've been well treated in my career in the school business. I think school districts and schools have the absolute best people in the world. We're not perfect by any means, but I think in terms of why people go to work every day, and they go to work to help young people, they go to work to do good and add. We all have the issue of what we have to deal with, things that are broken and things that don't work quite as well. But the reality is ours is not, we go there because of a fire or an accident or a danger. We go there to make it better for kids. And I think that's a pretty special one, and it is part of who I am. So yes, I have been enticed over time to come. So for the last 17 years, I want to focus particularly on it. I've filled the role of interim superintendent in quite a number of districts that range from Tacoma, Shelton, Renton, Peninsula, Bellevue. A couple different times I threw in a year with Seattle School District to be the chief financial officer for them. If you're gonna do it, why not start in Seattle and just do it? And then this last year as a special deputy for academics because they were facing a $130 million deficit and trying to figure out what to do with some of the issues. So I give you that just as a personal world that says, yes, that is who I am. I've been in the district office a long time after 5 years of teaching. And I was asked how many board meetings I've been at, and I said, I have no idea. That covers decades and decades and decades. So just enough. Again, my family looks at me and shakes their head and then supports me to do this work. So now I live out by the Narrows Bridge in Tacoma. So my commute is roughly on the 4 days that I came last week. Left there at 7 in the morning, got here right promptly at 9. It was a nice 2-hour drive, and I'm still trying to figure that one out. A little longer to get home. Kind of enough about me, but just want to give you that information. I think one of the questions that everybody's going to have, including yours truly, is what is a special administrator? Because while I've just identified being a superintendent for 35 years, the special administrator is not the superintendent position. The special administrator is not something that any of us have ever done, at least not in the state of Washington that I know of. So anyone that thinks that Art Jarvis is walking in the door with a plan to say, this is how we do it, and this is how we're gonna take care of business, I have to say that's not true. I don't know Marysville School District well enough to even begin to say, this is how we would do it, or this is what we would do. The relationship with the administrative team, the relationship with the board, the relationship with OSPI, the relationship with the community. I suggested in some of our earliest conversations that in a way it was akin to a levy campaign, where we need to talk with everybody in the community to the extent possible to talk about what we're doing and why we're doing it and why it's so important. In this case, I'm going to identify my role by the mission. If I am successful, I will have been part of a team of people, starting with the board, starting with the administrative team, but also including school staff, parents, community, and we will not go through the part that you just saw in the chart that says this is what you do for dissolution of a school district. I have been in the business in 2008 when the Great Recession hit. And we looked at the phrase for banks was too big to fail. You know, we saw banks fail. Marysville School District is too big to fail. But that's not the main reason we have to do collectively what we need to do. It's Marysville School District is too important to fail. It's too good to fail. And whatever the circumstances, and I'm going to speak to that very briefly, that led to this situation, I firmly believe that we have the ability to successfully remove ourselves from enhanced oversight. We have the ability to remove ourselves from binding conditions. We have the ability to go to a place where the district is very independent and doing what they need to do. And we'll march ahead and have a lot of fun again in this business, even as a board member. And I realize right now that's probably a stretch of the imagination, but it's doable. So very briefly touching on Art's view of the world and how did we get here. I don't have most of the detailed information. I don't have a lot of the pieces, but I can wrap it in a scenario that said I would start just for the heck of it in about 2018 as the state was doing McCleary and beginning to put McCleary in place, with a promise that it would be visited every year and that would just be a starting place. For all practical purposes, that start and that new system of finance and what it did to local school districts and 4 districts got buried in COVID very shortly before the full effect was even seen. COVID not only was confusing and messed up a lot of people, parents and kids and staff and boards, but normalcy got lost, including, as we saw, a loss of enrollment, trying to figure out whether that enrollment loss was temporary or long-term, or would those kids come back someday after COVID was done. The answer, of course, has since become clear that the lost enrollment, which is so vital to our financial health, was going to be answering the question. In general, those students did not return to the school district in the short term. Add to that, then the legislature added some willingness to try to help school districts not lose their transportation system and their food service system, and there were whole harmless things put in place that didn't, for a while, count on how many kids rode the school buses while we were not running school buses. But it confused the finance system and buttressed it. We then ran into a world of federal funds that came to try to help school districts and agencies and communities and counties, and not a lot of guidance, but use the money as you felt needed. This is a little longer answer than I need to, but I'm trying to put together a perspective of the elements then that at the end of which all of a sudden school districts found themselves with a new finance system that they really hadn't experienced, trying to rebuild systems and work with mental health of kids and restructuring a system with less resources locally because of McCleary, with a lot of shortfalls, and the greatest of all was reduced enrollment, which hit hard in the budget. Add to that then a variety of school districts, and I have to go to the place, the kind of the third element is, let's look at Marysville, my first impressions. You are the only school district in enhanced oversight at this point. So yes, there are 294, not 295 other school districts that have suffered what I just described, and they're not there. It's not pointing fingers, it's not looking for blame, it says, somehow we got to a place where it hit Marysville School District very, very hard. Along the way is the state has stepped in under what TJ just described, and we're now in year 2. And we're in a place that it seemed from the Financial Oversight Committee, which is independent, they don't report to me, I don't report to them, they're an additional element. That the Financial Oversight Committee looked at it and recommended, after a year, that it required enhanced oversight. And enhanced oversight brings in a special administrator, and now we're sitting here this evening and at least one person in the audience, if not the entire audience, is saying, what the heck is a special administrator? What's the relationship with the board? What's the relationship with the superintendent? Is Art gonna solve any of the problems, or is he just window dressing? Or a lot of other thoughts that could take place. My answer to you is that we've got work to do. I'm in a good position to probably press my luck and make decisions that somebody could argue they're not mine to make. I'm probably gonna try anyway. If for no other reason than I think it really needs to be done, and one way or another, is it a missing system? Is it a personnel issue? Wrong people in the wrong seat on the bus? Is it a tool issue? We don't have the proper tools? Is it a training issue? Right people, right tools, but we don't know how to use them. I wanna end on a note of, part of the reason I'm still doing this is I've had the wonderful good fortune, the blessings in my career to leave these places that I served as both superintendent, long-term, 2 places for 11 years each, and the rest for 1, 2, 3, and 5 years each. And be able to look around and say, they are doing well, they're successful, they are happy, there is joy in the work. People enjoy going to work on Monday knowing that they can use their skills and their talents to solve problems and make it better. I believe wholeheartedly we can get there, and I will try to be part of that whatever time I have, and we will see if I can be part of the solution. A lot of other people, the entire audience here needs to be part, the board needs to be part of that. I believe we can do it, and so on that note, I'm gonna quit talking. I'm just trying to give you a flavor of who is this guy, why is he here? If you can figure that out, please call some of my family and so we'll work on the rest. But Marysville is much too good, much too needy to walk away from and say, well, we'll just dissolve it. No, we're gonna do everything possible for that not to happen. So TJ, thank you for a few minutes to introduce myself, and back to you.
No problem, that's why we're here. That would have been a lot for one PowerPoint slide. All right, so we'll walk through some of the technical elements of Dr. Jarvis's role, and then we'll take questions from the board and go through the normal process here. So Dr. Jarvis will oversee and carry out the financial conditions imposed on the district between August of 2023 and when the district was put on binding conditions to present. So again, every process, everything that he looks at is designed and intended to put the district towards the trajectory of exiting binding conditions and becoming financially solvent again. He is authorized to direct changes to any and all business practices within the district. And again, he said he's willing to take some risk with that. So happy to see what that looks like. But you know, if Department A and Department B within the district aren't speaking the same language or having a hard time interpreting each other's data, I think that's something Dr. Jarvis will diagnose, recommend changes. If the FOC needs to get involved, that's a new element to the oversight, because the FOC, without being on the ground here more often than not, wouldn't necessarily be able to flag those potential process improvements. in order for him to do his job well, he needs to be provided with whatever documentation he requires in order to perform the duties of carrying out the conditions imposed by the district. And again, this isn't intended to be a scolding of the district. Marysville has given us the information we've requested. When we've requested it, I would say the challenge is sometimes that information doesn't balance to or foot with other information. So it's when we begin to take the information we've been provided either over the sequence of time or from two different areas of the district that we run into a little bit of problem of understanding. But in terms of responsiveness, the district has been and continues to be responsive. So these next couple slides are, if you've got a handout at the back of the table, the back of the room, the second paragraph that says the special administrator's role kind of highlights these. So I'm not going to read you these slides verbatim, but we're going to be reviewing budget information. He's going to help develop plans. Again, all of this is basically do your processes produce accurate and understandable financial information that you can use internally and externally in order to ensure that the trajectory towards financial solvency is in place. He can review, approve, and set limitations on the authority to enter into new contracts, reviewing, approving, and setting limitations on hiring and personnel actions. Number 5 really is kind of more geared towards the dissolution process, but in theory, if a district wanted to sell a building or a property, there would be a role for Dr. Jarvis to take a look at that transaction and the Financial Oversight Committee to review, reviewing and strengthening, developing financial and operational policies, procedures, and practices. And I think number 6 there is really, as we've talked with the board, the leadership team, labor, I think this is kind of the biggest challenge that we're having now, that we're hearing from all different areas, is just being able to develop the structure for financial reporting when we exchange information. Is it in a not reliable, that's the wrong word. Is it in a consistent format that allows us for easy use and understanding as information gets passed either from department to department at the district level, or from the department or from the district to the ESD or the state from an external level. Yeah, I'm not going to read number 7, it's there, it's also on your sheet. Number 8, work in partnership with the Financial Oversight Committee. Again, Dr. Jarvis doesn't report to the committee, but he will attend the committee meetings as he is available and provide insight to if we're struggling with understanding some of the financial implications of data, or if we have trouble getting data, which again hasn't happened yet, but if it should happen, we could say, hey, Art, could you please go talk to individual A or B at the district to ensure that they understand that this is what we want and this is when we need it. And then Dr. Jarvis is authorized to visit any school, district location, and conduct any meetings within the school district staff and constituents without advance notice. So Dr. Jarvis doesn't need permission from the district leadership or the board to schedule a meeting with a key employee, a member of the community. He's free to hear out any individual, address any concern that is needed. But of course, he will honor collectively bargained provisions. We're not going to go into an elementary school at 10 a.m. and say, I need to talk to you 6 people, come with me, right? So that type of thing wouldn't happen. And then we want to make sure that staff know that talking to Dr. Jarvis will not result in any retaliatory behavior. We want to make sure that as these conversations are happening, that confidentiality is the starting point. Now, depending on what you say, and there's a lot of, depending on if it's a labor issue or other things, I just want to be clear that unless we have a true assessment of the challenges within the district, whether they be culturally or operationally, it's going to be really hard for Dr. Jarvis to recommend how we move forward. So it's really important that clear communication is encouraged. He says he has an open door policy. We believe him. That was a dumb thing to say. I don't know. It's been a long day. I'm tired. He's available. You should talk to him. And we're going to move on before I say something else weird. The other thing is by October 15th, and we're going to talk about this date because it's really right around the corner. By October 15th or sometime in the very near future, Marysville must submit a revised budget to OSPI. And the budget shall fully address all of the questions from the Financial Oversight Committee and establish a common understanding of the school district's current financial position. So, you know, September enrollment was a little bit below what the district had budgeted. Maybe October will be a bounce back month. That would be fantastic. So we're waiting to see what October enrollment looks like. Count day is tomorrow. So we're just looking to see what the picture of the district looks like in terms of their revenue, and then we need to make some adjustments earlier on in the annual budget picture of the district as we look at where the revenues might align. And there's still some questions that the Financial Oversight Committee has on the budget that was approved in August that we need to remedy. So at some point, either in October, no later than mid-November, we're going to need a revision to the budget that the district submitted back in August. And as I stated, this is similar to work that's going on in the other districts in the state. Is you make your staffing adjustments, you figure out where your enrollment is as compared to budget. So this is all fairly routine. The difference for Marysville is they have to formally report this up through OSPI and the Financial Oversight Committee. So with that, we have questions from the board.
You good again? Okay, I'll start. Welcome, Dr. Jarvis. I think one of the things that, I heard you say several very positive things, but from our perspective, I think we share the same goal, right? The goal is to get our district back to firmer financial footing so that we can do the important work of serving kids, which is why we're all here. So from that standpoint, I am looking forward to our work together and getting done. One of the questions that I have, just as you've kind of walked through things, TJ, I'm looking for benchmarks and an eventual end date, if you will. And I guess it might be a question you're not able to answer just yet, but at what point do you see benchmarks laid out for the district? And I guess I'm just curious, do you see this as a 6-month stint, a 2-year stint? Like, what are you thinking?
So in terms of binding conditions, we want to take a look at where you are, where your revenue comes in, as evidenced by your enrollment, figure out what the budgetary situation looks like for the remainder of this year. Mm-hmm. And then as we roll forward to 25, 26, we can continue to engage moving forward. If your question is, at what point can Marysville be released from binding conditions? As I sit here tonight, I don't think it would be before the November-December timeframe of 2026. If we move faster, that's great, but I think there's enough work to be done here that we're gonna need this school year and the full next school year. And again, there's 6 districts on binding conditions right now. One of them was on binding conditions at the beginning of last year, and they're gonna be released this December. So being on binding conditions in and of itself, unfortunately, given all the economic factors that Dr. Jarvis spoke to, isn't unique. But I think we can also, you know, as we see progress being made, we can kind of peel back some of the steps of how we got here, right? So a question was asked earlier, do we just get released from everything all at once, or do we go from enhanced financial oversight back to financial oversight? The honest question is, I don't know, because we've never been here this far, but I think what would likely happen is we'd move from enhanced financial oversight back to regular binding conditions, and then just see where we go in that final school year before we would release you. But I don't think releasing you completely would be before we got to the end of the 25-26 school year.
I hear that, okay. I think that's helpful to understand, just from the standpoint of, you know, kind of where the current law stands in terms of, you think of like that 2-year time frame, and maybe needing a little bit more time, a little bit more of a glide path, if you will, to kind of work our way back to where we have the ending fund balance. I think that we all would like to see for us. So I guess helpful to hear that you see a path, and it's not just, we're gonna need to do drastic things right now to get you there.
No, there is a path, and we don't need to force that path within a condensed time frame, as long as we're all confident we're making progress and heading in the right direction. There's another district on binding conditions in this region of the state that was on a 2-year binding conditions agreement, ran into unexpected challenges and needed a 3rd year, and we granted that 3rd year, and we're moving forward. So these things need time, and they'll take time, and we just need confidence that we continue to head in the right direction.
That's helpful, thank you.
I guess my thoughts are more around, how, Dr. Jarvis intends to like carry out analyzing systems and, policy and procedures. Like just the way that he operates, I guess. I feel like having some idea of that could be helpful for staff. Well, I know he doesn't have to, have permission to visit or conduct meetings. I just think having, maybe just a procedure or understanding how his systems work and, what's the intention of going out and conducting the meetings so that our district staff could be helpful in, ensuring that he gets everything that he needs, but also just understanding kind of the way that this is gonna work.
Let me try to keep this a short answer, but at the same time give you a flavor. Certainly the staff, both in this office and the staff in the schools, need to have access to be able to say, this is what we're experiencing. This is what's not working. This is what is working. And so there is an invitation. Then comes a complication that culture is what it is, and some staff will not feel safe in doing that. So we'll be working on how do we make that safe. I can say my email will not be monitored, and here are alternatives, whether it's phone numbers for people to contact me if they really feel unsafe, so that avenue is there, as well as what you saw, which was sharing with people that there will be protection, so that they get to say, this is what's broken and this is what's not working. Third is, I think an element that says, as I alluded to earlier, but I'll say it specifically, is I need to be present in places where people can see and in some cases make a judgment that, no, he's too shifty and I'm not gonna talk to him, or I think maybe I could trust him. But particularly out in the community, in the business, the city, wherever, so that many of the people that can be part of a solution, can be part of assisting us. I used an example earlier today about seeking sponsorships, changing a policy to see if we can seek to support something that we could no longer afford, at least for a short term. And reaching into those that might be interested in helping us and setting up those. To some extent, I've been through a lot of campaigns, bond campaigns and levy campaigns, and I would liken part of our task to reaching out to people to try to teach them what we're trying to do, or at least share with them so they're aware, and then let people help us where they can. If the help is at a minimum understanding and support that when we make some hard decisions, that those were necessary because we have such a thin veneer of safety, having used up our cash balances and our fund balances, that we don't have that to fall back on. You have already laid the groundwork for potential closure of one or more schools. We're gonna have to work through a significant process that takes those pieces on and says, well, how important is this to the finances? What is the role it would play? If it were going to happen, what's that timeline? Start to take the mystery out of that and let people know that their children are safe and what the plan is and how the board and district would go about that. There will be part of it that will be watched by others to say, well, they think they know what's the missing piece in the system or the people or the tools or the trust. And I don't know that I can necessarily please those people, but if they can understand what we're doing to address that issue, then we get to start rebuilding the trust and the relationship. So what you're not hearing is on Monday, I'm gonna do the following, because most of that's still gonna be listening. I showed up on the doorstep here a week ago Friday. Nobody knew I was coming, and some of the eyes got wide enough. I teased the staff a little bit. As I walked around or was ushered around, various intersections got very busy. People wanted to know who the heck is that, who's Art, or what's he gonna do, or how evil does he look? So part of that is gonna be building a trust relationship that says we are gonna tackle some hard stuff. And along the way will be what do we have to do to unblock at a certain point something that's vital, something that's very important. But one of the first things I shared with some of the staff is if you can even picture me trying to decide whether that elementary school can buy some more paper, that would be the worst use of my time. Not only are there other people who could do that well, starting with the principal and probably the office manager, it is up to us to have a system that works for them and doesn't give them the answer, well, we don't know. It's frozen, it's somehow not there. So part of my job, as you saw, will be to try to create pathways where there aren't the pathways, clear roadblocks where there are roadblocks, and to get to the place that our HR department is doing all the work that we love HR for, and the finance people and the HR know how to take each of their parts and make it work. And over here would be a curriculum person that understands how to work towards what they're asking for. What worries me right now is that we've got kind of a combination of, if it doesn't work, we actually lose funding that we should be earning. If we don't do it efficiently, we're gonna waste part of our money that we do have. And ultimately, that if we can't do that, we'll lose the people and the funding, and then we'll get penalized and we'll lose more of what we should be doing. So we have to stop that spiral, we have to stop that piece. That's a long-winded answer to your question, but I'm trying to give you a flavor of what's involved more than a series of steps that say in 2 weeks I can do this, or in 3 weeks I can do that. I apologize for lots of unanswered pieces to that.
I think we're gonna figure it out, right? We're gonna get there. But thank you, yeah, I was just thinking in alignment also like with, policy, looking at policies and, you know, we're trying to create a policy as a board about, to make sure that our budget process and timeline is, in alignment with all the deadlines that we have, and, so just figuring out how we're gonna align all those policies and work together, I guess is what I was trying to figure out, but I think we're gonna get there, right?
Yeah, we'll get there, and I think with like a budget development policy, I think that's something you could ask the FOC to take a look at. Obviously, I'm not sure what WASDA would have on that type of material, but they're another good resource. So, yes to all, it's just a little bit at a time, and if we run into a roadblock or we run into something that we think really is better determined or decided exclusively amongst you as board members and leaders of the community, then we will just say, either option is good and it's up to you to decide how to move forward. So it just depends on the issue and how quickly we're able to communicate about it and move forward.
And then one more question, just, I guess, I don't know all the, I guess, laws about this exactly yet, except for that I know that when we sell an asset, it has to go back into our capital budget. So I was just curious if if there was a possibility if assets were ever sold. You said this is a part of dissolution, why number 5 is here. But I was wondering about if there was any discussion about looking at repaying loans from, that, like waivers.
So we would need legislative intervention to create some flexibility with how the proceeds of a sale of like a school building would be. So right now, it's gotta go back into the capital fund, and we would need some, you know, either a temporary grace period for the duration of whatever the legislature thinks this financially challenged time would be, to say, okay, we wanna sell, you know, ABC Elementary School and use that money in our operating fund to help fill some of these budgetary gaps. So, I have been asked that question by, I wouldn't say several, but more than one district around the state recently, and we would need the legislature to go in and create that capacity for us, either permanently or in the short term.
Well, I wanna not look at TJ or Brandon as I say this, but there are some issues out there. For example, if you were earning interest on capital money, that interest can be used in the program side, on the operations side. It doesn't have to stay in now I'm rating one fund the interest to help something else, but there are some of those pieces, even if they're relatively minor, that can help us. We're clearly collectively and individually going to be working our elected representatives at the state level, and I think as they see districts in crisis, Seattle would certainly be on that. There will be requests made of would you allow us to do this, and we will have some company with other districts that are also experiencing difficulty. And we may be able to see some relief, whether it's temporary or because of certain conditions. If you're in this spot where we are, you'll be allowed some flexibility. So taking out a loan from interfund loan is tricky, because as we all know from our personal experiences and business experiences, if you take out a loan, it's expected to be repaid. And now I've used up my money and now I have to pay back the loan, and so how to do that in a school district and what permission is needed in moments of crisis. That's gonna take lobbying, it's gonna take conversations, it's gonna take voices in the community of Marysville that says, this is really important to us, and it's part of our staying healthy or getting healthy. So I don't think it has boundaries at that point. It's gonna be, in some cases, it's talking to a legislator, in other cases, it's talking to local officials. The mayor has already asked me about, well, this agreement that the city has with the school district, where is that? And I quickly deferred to the board, and said, I know there are issues that you haven't decided what's best for you. We're gonna be looking at any and all of those, and some will seek permission, and sometimes will be turned down, but it's worth a try.
Well, I'll touch on the point of getting community members to get out and lobby for the district and really for all public schools across the state. I would say that Marysville has, one of the more energized, community bases who's willing to get up and do that work. So when that time comes, I don't think you'll have a problem finding people for that. I appreciate you being here and kind of laying out what your responsibilities are and kind of who you are as an individual and what your background is. You know, it seems like Marysville's foundation has a crack in it, and we've been forced to pull back these layers. I'm excited that we have somebody here who is a skilled tradesman to relay the foundation and get us set on the right path. So I don't want to take up any more time. I know that we have to jump into public hearing. I just want to say again, thank you for the presentation and thank you for telling us a little bit more about you, Dr. Jarvis. This public hearing will run a lot like what a typical public hearing would in a regular session. We've got 30 minutes slotted for public hearing. So we'll do each individual has 3 minutes. We have if you look up there, we've got a timer. I think once you get to 30 seconds, it'll turn yellow. And once your time expires, it'll flash red. If at that point in time, your time's expired, if you've got about 15 or 20 more seconds that you could wrap up your statement, feel free to do that. We just want to be respectful of the people behind you who are up next to speak. I'll call out the names. If you could just mention whether or not you're a parent or you live in the area, that'd be great. First up on my list, I have Nancy Harvey.
Community member?
Go ahead, yeah. I think the mic's on, maybe tap it. Yep.
It is, it's live. Welcome, Dr. Jarvis. I'm Nancy Harvey. I'm second generation out of 4 generations of my family who graduated from Marysville schools. I'm a community member and a volunteer. This morning, I didn't know what I would talk to you about tonight. I went to Totem to be in the staff photo for Remembrance Day. Our principal, Lisa Radford, shared some pretty great news with me, and I would like to share it with you. Totem is alive and well and has community support. This year, for the first time in several years, Totem is offering a CTE foods class. There was a problem. Appliances don't last forever. Totem needed new refrigerators and dishwashers. Our teacher was not afraid to reach out to our Totem community. The community responded, and as a result, $1,000 was donated to provide the program with 2 refrigerators and 4 dishwashers. Those appliances will arrive within days. Totem students matter. Our staff at Totem works tirelessly every day to support our students. If you want more information about what I just told you, you can contact Lisa Radford at Totem. Please stop trying to close Totem Middle School.
Thank you very much. Nancy. Next up, I have Mike Hogan,
You got it.
Got it right this time.
2 times in a row.
Yeah, Mike Hogan, community member. This is my 40th year of teaching. I teach up at Stanwood High School. Thank you for coming. One thing that you said that I heard that resonated in my heart, this school district cannot fail. This is a good district. I've got twin boys that graduated from Marysville Pilchuck. They graduated Washington State University cum laude. They got through it, through the shooting, through all of this. And I'm very proud of the fact that we're from Marysville, played football, did all the sports. It's a great community. We have the city, you talked about the mayor that you spoke to. Great community, great parks, great people. Everybody here is in support of our school district. I would say, though, that they trust none. There is a underlying feeling from many, many years ago. I know as a community member, when we were splitting up the schools into small learning communities, going to meetings about how Getchell would be, what it was gonna look like, how they were gonna build it. And very quickly after questions, being ushered away from the group to have our questions dealt with. I never felt comfortable, and I think that feeling is pervasive. I know of people that have worked in the district that, well, if I come up and speak, have been moved from position to position. So, I think it's not an upward climb to fix our problem, but it is gonna be an upward climb to make everybody feel comfortable. It's good to have you here. I feel comfortable already, knowing that you've left some places better than they were, and we are a good school. We've got great board members, we've got good people in this building. It's just a matter of finding out where we've gotten off the tracks, and I do believe we will be stronger. When we're through this is gonna be a great school district, not just a good school district now. So thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, Mike. Next on my list, I have Austin Haw.
I'm gonna be passed. I know we got a Seahawks game to get to, so.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
I'll pass it off to Chris Davis.
Chris Davis, community member. Again, Hawk Slayer, so I'll keep it quick. I was a little hesitant, like coming in, I noticed a lot of what you said was what we needed to hear, and I also noticed a lot of what you didn't say. And you're a keen observer to know the room that well already. And just watching your reactions from people speaking so far and the questions from the board. Like, wait, embrace the suck. This is like the nicest suck ever. It's like a hug. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. Next on my list, I have Jay Hooman. Hello, Jay.
Good evening. Hello. School board directors, Mr. Kelly, Dr. Jarvis, staff, community. Thank you. My name's Jay Hooman, and I'm a parent, community member, and founding member of the Marysville Community Coalition. First, I want to thank all of you for being here tonight and for continuing to care about the direction of our school district. For too long, many of us have shared a sense of frustration and disappointment with the way decisions have been made without enough transparency, accountability, or input from the community. Our concerns, voiced time and again, often seem to fall on deaf ears, leaving us feeling powerless and disconnected from the process. But today, with the appointment of the special administrator, I feel a renewed sense of hope. This is really an important step toward restoring the trust that's been lost. However, it's critical to remember that the role of the special administrator is not to do the work of the school board and what they should have been doing from the start. The board itself must begin acting in proactive ways to repair the broken relationship with the community. It's their responsibility to lead, to listen, and to rebuild the trust that is eroded over time. At this time, I remain concerned that we see real, tangible change within the top levels of administration and district policies. We cannot afford to continue down a path that puts our district at risk of repeating the same mistakes that led to incompetence and poor decision-making. The community deserves better, and we must have confidence that the leadership at the top is committed to creating a culture of integrity, accountability, and responsibility. This isn't just about avoiding crises. It's about ensuring that our district serves our students and families in the best possible way now and into the future. With the special administrator, while the special administrator can guide and provide oversight, it's the board's duty to ensure that decisions are made with transparency and that they are in the best interest of our students, staff, and community. We need our board to take this opportunity to reflect and to engage in the hard work of rebuilding trust, work that cannot be outsourced or passed off. I'm encouraged, but I'm also mindful that this is just the beginning. It's crucial that we as a community remain actively involved in shaping the future of our schools. I hope to see more opportunities for genuine community input, where our voices are heard and valued. Equally important is the need for ongoing, clear, and transparent communication from the district to keep us informed and engaged in the decisions that impact our children's education. Let's seize this moment to rebuild a system that works for all of us, one where our concerns are addressed, our involvement is welcomed, and our trust in this institution is restored. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jay. That's all I have on my list. And it looks like we're about 3 minutes over. I don't know if TJ, you had anything else that you wanted to share tonight? Or?
No, I don't wanna keep a room of Hawk fans away from Monday Night Football, so whatever I say will fall on deaf ears. So we appreciate the invitation, we look forward to the continued partnership. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm gonna keep you for a little bit longer because I wanna make sure that, everybody knows that, today, Orange Shirt Day, is more than just wearing orange shirts. This day recognizes the loss of identity, culture, and language that many Indigenous children experienced in many boarding schools. The United States itself had 408 federal schools across 37 states, including 21 schools in Alaska and 7 schools in Hawaii. Some individual federal Indian boarding schools accounted for multiple sites, but there were 408 federal Indian boarding schools. There was one right in Tulalip. These schools' primary purpose were sponsored by the government. They were religious schools, and they were implemented as a part of a larger goal to assimilate and absorb Indigenous people into the settler culture by systematically undermining the cultures and ways of life of Native American people. Residential schools did this by disrupting families, by taking away the children, thereby severing the intergenerational ties through which Indigenous cultures and ways of knowing and being taught are sustained. Indigenous children as young as 3 years old were removed and isolated from their homes, families, traditions, cultures, and communities. They were forbidden from speaking their language and forced to adopt Christian religious practices and modes of thinking and behaving. At boarding schools, staff forced Indigenous students to cut their hair and use new Anglo-American names, and by removing them from their homes, the schools disrupted the students' relationships with their families and other members of their tribes. On top of that, many children forced other forms of abuse, including physical, emotional, and sexual abuse throughout their school year. The the saying and the tag that you will see is that every child matters, and many children never return home, and their fates have yet to be accounted for by the forceful, forcing these students to attend US government schools. And it was just in recent years that efforts have began to raise awareness about the legacy of boarding schools. And it has gained momentum with the Secretary of Interior, Deb Haaland. She's the first Native American woman and Native American to actually hold a cabinet secretary. And she had launched the initiative to investigate boarding schools. Under Secretary Haaland's direction, they did an investigation and found that 19 boarding schools accounted for the deaths of more than 500 American Indian, Alaskan Native, and Native Hawaiian children. That number has grown since 2022 to over 900. And they talk about how this day should bring about healing, and it has for many tribes and across the United States and First Nations across Canada. Indigenous communities are currently undergoing a complex and ongoing process of healing after decades of Indian boarding schools. The trauma inflicted by these institutions has had deep and lasting effects on individuals, families, and entire communities. Healing is multifaceted. Through cultural revitalization, Indigenous communities are working diligently to reclaim, preserve, and revitalize our culture, our traditional languages, our customs, our spiritual practices. This process is essential for reconnecting with their cultural heritage, which was often forcibly suppressed during the boarding school era. And truth and reconciliation. There are commissions that have been established across various countries that aim to provide survivors with a platform to share their stories and their experiences, but also seeking acknowledgement and redress from the government and church institutions responsible for the schools. Community support. Indigenous communities are strengthening their support systems by both internally and externally. Mental health services, counseling, and community healing circles provide safe spaces for survivors and their descendants to share their feelings and their experiences and to seek emotional support. Education and awareness. Advocacy for accurate and inclusive education is a significant part of the healing process. Indigenous communities, along with allies, are working to ensure that the history of Indian boarding schools and their impact is integrated into school curricula. This helps to promote understanding and empathy among future generations and intergenerational healing. Many Indigenous communities are addressing the intergenerational trauma passed down from boarding school survivors to their descendants. Healing ceremonies and storytelling and cultural activities play a vital role in this process. I myself have a great auntie that was taken to a boarding school, and this is something you don't necessarily hear on a regular basis, but they took her to just take her tonsils out, and because they didn't know her health history and they were practicing on these Indian kids, she died on that operating table getting her tonsils out. And so I can identify with the intergenerational healing and all of these things as a Native American woman. And I just really wanted to make sure that we knew that this day is not just about wearing an orange shirt, but the purpose, which I shared previously, but as it is September 30th, I think it's important that we talk about that and acknowledge that and pay our respect to any survivors or to the people that were lost through these forced assimilation tactics. So thank you for listening.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. sorry, I didn't mean to like take over and hijack, but I felt like it was very important to, pay some respect and, just share.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Any other board members?
Just wanna thank again, Mr. Kelly, Dr. Jarvis, and all the members of the FOC for their long day-to-day meeting with the staff, meeting with community members, meeting with district leadership and our union leadership. So I think we're off to a good start. I think it was a long day, obviously, but I think we're all ready for some football. So thank you very much.
Well, I won't hold anybody back. Maybe I should, I'm a Cowboys fan, so maybe I should.
Oh, no.
But, I'm just kidding. Yeah, thanks again, everybody, for coming out.
The Cowboys actually beat the Bills too.
Yep.